Hi, this is Kevin Arvin. Happy Good Friday to you. I was reading an article from Inc.com called The 20 Brutal Truths About Life No One Wants to Admit. The thing that caught my eye from that was this one. It's not what happens, it's how you react that matters. Well, today is Good Friday. It's also the end of the 4th week of sheltering at home for both my wife and I together. I usually work remotely most of the week, so it hasn't been much of a change for me. But for my wife and her coworkers, getting set up to work remotely, functioning as a team remotely, her managing a workforce remotely, and maintaining some sense of sanity while being cooped up at home with someone like me could be quite a challenge. And many of you have much more complex situations and challenges in your life than we do because we don't have school-aged children at home like some of you do. Suddenly, in addition to your professional role, if you're fortunate to still be employed, you are thrust into the additional roles of school headmaster, PE coach, lunchroom staff, math guru, good luck with that one, guidance counselor, so on. So it's what is being widely referred to as the new normal, right? And I also think of those who are the real heroes in this crisis. You healthcare workers and practitioners, you're on the front lines literally waging war against an insidious foe. We're grateful for you. Has anyone else noticed it's increasingly hard to remember what day of the week it is? They all seem to blend into one another, and one day is virtually indistinguishable from another most times. Well, earlier this week, I had to laugh because my oldest son sent a meme to our family's group text. It had an image from the great Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day. And the reason I laughed was because just moments before we received that text from my son, I told Susan, well, this is Groundhog Day number 25 for us. So my son was thinking the same crazy thing. If you're not familiar with that movie, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. It's all about one day repeating itself over and over and over again. The day happened to be February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Bill Murray plays a weatherman who travels with his crew to film the emergence of Punxsutawney Phil, that legendary groundhog celebrity. Well, this weatherman comes to cover this event again, but some crazy turn of events in the universe happen. The world suddenly stops at the end of Groundhog Day, and it rewinds back to the morning of February 2nd and replays that same day over and over and over. Every day, Phil the weatherman, yes, he has the same name as the groundhog, wakes up in his Punxsutawney hotel room to the same Sonny and Cher song waking him up on his clock radio. And the same chain of events occurred during the day. Back to the little truth nugget that we started off with. It's not what happens to you, it's how you react that matters. How did Phil, the weatherman, react to this totally unforeseen crisis of repeating the same day endlessly? Well, I thought about it, and here's a summary of how he reacted from my perspective. First, panic and alarm. At first, he was understandably alarmed and perplexed and feverishly trying to find a solution and a way out of this incessant time loop. After that came narcissistic self-interest. He realized he was the only one who understood what had happened, that everyone else in the town simply played their same roles over and over around him, totally oblivious to Phil's plight. So he realized he could do whatever he wanted. Didn't matter, because he was going to get a free pass and a fresh start the next morning, no matter what he did. So he became master of his little universe and used and abused the people around him as pawns in his little game, which was actually a nightmare. Well, after a time, Phil came to the realization there's no real satisfaction in endlessly pursuing self-pleasure and self-satisfaction and focusing only on me. So, what was the next step for him? Suicidal depression. Phil falls into a deep depression that led him to decide he had to put an end to this madness once and for all. So he committed suicide, killed himself. To his utter dismay, he still woke up the next morning to Groundhog Day one more time. Undeterred from his goal to end it all, he tried killing himself again and again and again and again, jumping off a building, walking into ongoing traffic, etc. But every morning he woke up again to the same Sonny and Cher song on his clock radio. Well, the final and fourth step of his reaction to the crisis was self-transformation. Realizing the futility of all he had tried and failed, Phil began to see for the very first time the people around him. He became others-focused. He began to see that homeless man with failing health from a lack of nutrition, and every day he fed him and tried to nurse him back to health. He surprised the insurance salesman who had badgered him every single day to buy a policy from him by buying every single policy he offered. He knew the exact time the little bratty neighborhood kid would fall from the tree that he had climbed, and he was there under that tree every day to catch that little brat while he was falling. He showed up with a jack just in the nick of time to help the elderly ladies who predictably had a tire blowout every single day at the same time. He became not only others-focused and service-oriented, he worked on bettering himself too, learning to become an impressive piano player and an accomplished ice carver. And because of his transformation into a selfless, service-oriented individual who truly cared about other people, the female TV producer he had been pursuing all along suddenly falls for the new Phil. She falls in love with him. He's no longer arrogant, narcissistic, and self-serving. He's learned what true love consists of. And the girl of his dreams now eagerly responds to the new person she sees unfolding before her. So finally, at long last, the nightmare is over, as a brand new day, February 3rd, dawns the following morning. Well, does this pandemic we're in seem eerily similar to the Groundhog Day nightmare? Maybe so. How did you react when this crisis all began for us? Well, to be truthful, I reacted pretty much the same way that Phil the weatherman did, at least some of the same patterns. At first, there was a little bit of panic and alarm. What does this all mean? How can we protect ourselves from this? How long is this going to last? Were the people I just came in contact with infected? Could I get infected? Have I washed my hands enough? All those same questions that we all have asked. Then for me, there was some self-interest thrown in. We better get to the grocery store. We need to get on Amazon. We need to order from Costco all the stuff we need so we can hunker down and ride this thing out and take care of ourselves. And I never felt any suicidal depression, but I must admit in week 2, both my wife and I showed signs of depression. The listlessness, the feeling of this is never going to go away. And one day, I think it was Thursday of the second week for us, my wife said that out of nowhere, for no reason, she felt like just crying, breaking down and crying. But that I came to her rescue when I brought our softball gloves downstairs and said, let's go play catch. Well, in Phil's case, the fourth phase of his reaction to his crisis was self-transformation. The transformation of mindset for us came early on as we fairly quickly realized that, there are a lot of other people out there who are living under much more dire circumstances and conditions, facing far greater challenges than us. So like many of you, we are doing what we can, endeavoring to be others-focused, doing the things we can do to serve the people with whom we're connected. Well, there's a passage on this day that gave me some insight to the situation we're in, and great comfort at the same time. It comes from John 16. Jesus is talking with those closest to him. Verse 32 says, "A time is coming, and in fact has come, when you will be scattered, each to your own home." Wow, does that sound familiar? Verse 33 goes on to say, "I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace." In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. Back to our saying, it's not what happens, it's how you react that matters. Something truly troubling has happened in our world, and at an unprecedented level, at least in most of our lifetimes. You and I were never promised a life free of problems, were we? In fact, the maker of the universe right here clearly tells us we're going to have troubles in this world. But the good news on this Good Friday is He has overcome the world with all its troubles, including the current ones we're facing. It's how you react that matters. And you and I can react to the troubles around us accordingly. If we trust in who Jesus is and what He says, we can take great comfort in Him. And we can actually have peace in the midst of all of this. It's an internal kind of peace that goes far beyond your or my ability to understand all the whys and the what-ifs that often derail us. And we can move beyond panic, alarm, and self-interest and focus on others and how we can help brighten their circumstances. So, on this Groundhog Day, number 28 for our family, and on this Good Friday, I'm going to try to maintain focus on these words, and I leave them with you. Take heart, Jesus says, I have overcome the world. Have a blessed day.